Our whole work is about having the agent be familiar with the code base, just like you would expect your senior developer to, whether it's analyzing Figma, analyzing tickets, and then implementing them, reusing your component library. Basically, the agent's meant to serve as another member of the team and significantly increase the pace of the front-end development. And we've seen a huge variety of Figma quality. That actually led us to one of our benchmarks for our agents. We call it RRR, like retrieve, represent, repeat. How well can they retrieve the data? How well can they represent it for the flow, and then how well can they repeat the process and be dependable for organization. So for Figma specifically, we did an extensive amount of work. And then when they see the whole flow and that they see that the agent visually, semantically analyzed the Figma design, found the matching components in the code base, even shows it in the flow, that's kind of the first wow moment that we see people's eyes, they light up because they're like, oh, this is actually the component for my code base where I have, I don't know, hundreds. We've seen organizations with even thousands of components within the code, and they see that the agent was actually able to find exactly the one they need for this subsection from this Figma design. So that's a start of kind of when the eyes light up in terms of this pace of growth. So the expectation for us is basically doubling every quarter, which if you can extrapolate pretty quickly to understand where that will take us in 36 months.
How are you doing?
Doing well. We're all well. How about yourself?
Awesome. Good as well. Where are you calling from?
So I'm originally from California, but I live in Israel now, in Tel Aviv.
Oh, amazing. I'm in California right now, and I am an Israeli citizen, but I'm originally from Sweden.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting combination. We're in California.
I'm in San Francisco.
Okay, very cool. I did my undergrad at Berkeley, so I know the area very well.
Yeah, that's very close. That's amazing. Cool. What made you move to Israel?
Finished my master's, and it's just always the plan. So there's the service, the IDF in Israel. So initially, I finished my undergrad early because I wanted to serve like everybody else. Ended up arriving here, and they wanted to put me with people that were like a decade older. So I said, "There's no rush." Went back to the U.S., did a startup or two, did my master's, and then it was like the last stretch before I could enlist. So I jumped back to Israel.
Amazing. Yeah, I was also called to enlist and serve, but I don't speak the language, so I that would have been difficult. I know some people do it, but you have to go into some special section, and I didn't want to be in the special section, so ended up not doing it.
Yeah.
But it sounds like an amazing experience.
Yeah, no, definitely a great experience, but it's hard if you don't know the language. I totally get that.
Yeah, so great to meet you again.
Pleasure.
Before we dig in, I'll give you a little bit of context.
Mhm.
So I'm the founder of Imperial Arts. We partner mainly with B2B SaaS companies to help increase their revenue and profitability by acquiring new clients. So we do client acquisition mainly to actually move the needle on revenue for companies. And that is why we're now interviewing leaders, previously people at Mercedes-Benz and Cisco, and now you with Autonomy to gain deeper insights in market. Also, while providing value back to you in the form of this podcast. So we'll send you the full length podcast as well as some shorts we'll edit as well. Usually takes 30 to 40
Yeah.
minutes. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds great.
Cool. So I understand that Autonomy provides AI services. Could you share a little bit more insights into your business, about yourself, and the role you play within it?
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit about myself. Tammuz Dubnov, one of the co-founders and the CTO at Autonomy AI. As CTO, I do everything from the conception of the idea to implementation and now with the whole team. We've been around for a year and a half. Uh, we don't do AI services in the traditional sense. We have agents that we sell to companies, subscription model, standard approach, but the agents help in the software development landscape for organizations. And our focus, the initial focus in our release thus far, has been very geared towards front-end development. So we have two agents that are out of a team of agents to encapsulate more and more of the R&D process. But the main agent we focus on today is what we call the magician agent. our whole work is about working inside a large code base for organizations and having the agent be familiar with the code base, just like you would expect your senior developer to, and then do the front end work, whether it's analyzing Figma, analyzing tickets, and then implementing them according to your organizational standards that are totally self-detected, and then reusing your component library. Basically, the agent is meant to serve as another member of the team and significantly increase the pace of front end development.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, you mentioned Figma and my ear spiked right away. I am originally a product designer, so I work a lot in Figma.
That's awesome.
So you use the Figma API to analyze components and I guess kind of the dev mode on the back end. How do you utilize it in your product?
And so exactly like you said, we're very well coupled with the Figma API. We get everything that we could possibly get from there in terms of the design details. Depending on the design, some have high fidelity, some have low. So the more details there are, the more we capture them. So we can pass on that knowledge to the agent. It's all the pixel perfect stuff, the exact values you would expect it, what dev mode is meant for, going through each value, copying it over to the code, and the work that is pretty kind of going in between the ants. Maybe that's a phrase in Hebrew, not English.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. We
but
call it
grabbing all those,
molecules.
there you go, yeah, molecules, grabbing those tiny molecules and fetching it to the code in a way that developers typically don't like to do, or often miss. They don't. It's shocking how many of them don't have the eye like the designers have. They just miss it. So the agent
Yeah,
doesn't have that problem.
it's really
Yeah.
hard to find consistency across design files sometimes. So at
Oh,
least
that
I've
too.
seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, we've
Okay,
seen a
so
huge. Oh, yeah.
go ahead, please.
No, no. We've seen a huge variety of Figma quality for the good or the bad. With that, that actually led us to one of our benchmarks for our agents. We call it triple R, like retrieve, represent, repeat. How well can they retrieve the data? How well can they represent it for the flow? And then how well can they repeat the process and be dependable for organization? So for Figma specifically, we did an extensive amount of work on the represent part. Between what comes from the API to what the agent actually sees, there's a bunch of transformations to make it actually the design details that the agent needs to see and not everything from the API.
Amazing. And what kind of results are clients seeing? What are their first let's say interactions with the product, and what do they feel like when they see the results? So what kind of feedback do you get?
So we get a lot of skepticism when people enter their calls, like not clients, just in the first POC kind of demo situation. Because sadly, the expectations from LLMs are much lower than you would think. And then when they see the whole flow and that they see that the agent visually, semantically analyzed the Figma design, found the matching components in the code base, even shows it in the flow, that's kind of the first wow moment that we see people's eyes, they light up because they're like, oh, this is actually the component for my code base where I have, I don't know, hundreds. We've seen organizations with even thousands of components within the code, and they see that the agent was actually able to find exactly the one they need for this subsection from this Figma design. So that's a start of kind of when the eyes light up. After that, there's a whole modeling of kind of the coding standards, and when they realize how in depth they understood their code base, and then actually generate the code in line. That's the other part where we see that kind of the eyes pop. And then lastly, when we point into the lines within the code, we're like, okay, you see these values? These are like all the values that you would want your developer to go through and notice like the radius of the cornering of the buttons. Like you can see that's directly from the Figma API. The agent is going full detail, aiming for the pixel perfect. And that's kind of the finishing touch.
Wonderful. What are the current trends in the market that you are aware of in your industry? Where are the winds blowing, and what are you noticing?
Uh, I'll talk just about the stuff that's interesting around let's say a little bit of design and the coding practices we're seeing within organizations. The whole Gen AI kind of movement and the way a lot of companies are trying to adopt it on the front end side is they're starting to reimagine the frameworks they're using and tailoring it much more to frameworks that they see are good or that AIs are good with. Meaning, if they use like framework X, they might switch to something else because they read or they saw that AI is better at outputting that sort of code. And with that, they're starting to to put more emphasis on redoing components or switching their design system around and recreating it in a way that they think will be as AI native as possible. So that's been one interesting trend we're seeing. More and more companies are coming to us saying this is specifically on our agenda, and these are the configurations for the framework moving on that we want to use because we know it'll be better for the AI. So really, AI is becoming frontier in their headspace and their focus.
I see, I see. And what is happening in the market that's making the landscape more challenging or easier to operate? You mentioned these challenges uh, in the market. Is that something you're tackling right now, or does that actually make the landscape easier for you to operate in since you have some of these solutions?
I want to say the market for us so far it's been rather easy to navigate just because the problem statement is very clear for organizations. When we explain the problem we're solving, that's clearly something that they want to tackle. For many organizations, front end is a bottleneck. Like their core IP is somewhere in the back end, some business logic, product offering, and UI is just a buffer through which the person experiences the core logic that they built. And with that, they don't necessarily have the manpower built up for the front end as much as for all the back end and the business logic. So it was initially surprising to hear how many organizations say that the features already, I think one organization said it was like a month, everything's already features built out, and it waits a month just for the front end element. It you'd expect to be more straightforward and faster, but organizations just don't have their manpower built in that way. So with that, they're looking for AI to help in all the bottlenecks that they have, and this is a bottleneck that they very clearly identify. So it's been pretty smooth. Like organizations come on. There's the skepticism that I mentioned, but typically it comes from higher up. Like the CEO read somewhere that Gen AI and LLMs are supposed to start transforming the business and the R&D velocity, and he gives them the directive that they have to go find solutions. And that's been a lot of the traction we've been seeing.
How does that affect sales? Let's say now versus the previous quarters.
It just changed the approach, meaning there's a whole PLG movement, the product-led growth that was very prominent in the past, saying, okay, we're going to go from the bottom up, like go to all the developers, they'll adopt it, they'll push it upstream. We've seen that the shift in market makes it make more sense to go top down. So go straight to the decision maker at the top that have this directive and this agenda, and then bring it downstream. For us, it also lines up because I mentioned like the coding standards and the way it models the organization's writing preferences. That's actually value that the VP R&D, for example, loves the most because then he can view it, he can set it, and it gets auto applied to the rest of the team. So it also makes a lot of sense that it's going top down. But that was something pretty evident that the market brought us to that.
You talked a little bit about the low expectations, kind of the skepticism of what the agents can do today, and yeah, part of that you also mentioned it might be related to maybe how much the clients or the customers are educated on the topic, or maybe how the company branding or the story is out there. How important is it for you to build more strategic visibility right now? So yeah, again, whether that would be your branding or company positioning or just getting your story out there more clearly to ideal clients, is that something you're looking into?
Uh, yeah, so the thing we're saying is there's kind of a big gap. There's the promise that the CEO or the lead or the executive read somewhere or heard somewhere, and then there's the day-to-day that the developer that uses Cursor or uses some sort of LLM tool in their work. There's a big gap versus the promise and what the developer experiences. Uh, and that's been something we've saw that the developer that comes in way more skeptic because they saw that they've experienced AI. They don't necessarily know the real difference between kind of agentic workflows and our agents to do much more than just kind of a chat interface and the traditional AI that they use. So for us, it's been, since we're going top down, it's been really important branding to position ourselves in front of the decision makers and explain that the promise that they're hearing about, this is one of the ways to actually achieve that promise. And then when we get in front of the developers, that then they run it and they see the quality, and that basically speaks to itself. So it's been really important for us to brand ourselves correctly both as leaders in the space, but also position ourselves slightly more executive facing than developer facing.
I see. So where would you see that your current biggest frustrations are and why?
Uh, Sorry, give me a second. Let's see.
Take your time.
Okay. I think I have one answer. I don't know if it's the best answer, but that's something that meets me every, I'd say more often than I'd like. Uh, so executives know what they want. The business knows how it wants to optimize. The developers, it's kind of a hit or miss. And I didn't go into interface, but within organizations, but there's 2,000 components, which is obviously not an ideal situation. You want a core component library that you reuse frequently and not endless duplication. Some developers that I mentioned, this kind of stigma against AI in a sense. There's the overall stigma that AI is going to slowly take over their job. There's the issue that junior devs are having a harder and harder time finding employment because of all this acceleration in Gen AI for development. That we see some developers being less eager to use the tool correctly, and then looking for the gaps instead of seeing the value. Initially, because AI is still early on, we're very adamant about the fact that it doesn't do everything. It doesn't get you to 100%, but it gets you to that 70 to 80%, sometimes even 85, 90, depending on how clean your infrastructure is. And the business executive will see that and understand the impact immediately, whereas the developer looks for that gap and tries to emphasize there because of that difficult stigma. Or if there's really easy ways to slightly configure the AI and tell, okay, well, there's 500 components in this folder, but that's all legacy, so don't even look there. Like that's literally a checkbox. They won't go through that step to help the AI a bit. And then, of course, they'll focus on the gap in quality because they didn't help the AI at all. So that's something we're working through. It's interesting. It's kind of hit or miss. Some organizations are super adamant about AI and developers are AI facing and really gear into it. And you can see some older organizations, depends kind of on the nature of the developers within the team. But some of them have that anti-AI stigma still.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like some of your pain points are with already acquired users, and some of your pain points are with people that are just getting into the product. So one part is actually the usability of the product and how efficient it is, and some of it is client acquisition related. In your recent experience, would you say that your business development and client acquisition processes are where you want them to be, or are there still parts that feel slower or heavier than they should? Like you mentioned, maybe some of these communication aspects around what the product and mainly what the technology can do.
As a startup, you want to focus on the client acquisition to scale fast, kind of the get big fast motion. So that's we're seeing great daily usage in terms of existing clients. It's interesting. We see it kind of fluctuate with the sprint. Like sometimes they have sprints where there's a ton of front end, and sometimes there's sprints where there's less. And there's kind of the backward issue where we're speeding up their front end. So now that we're getting rid of their backlog for front end, so there's less front end task. So it's interesting how it comes in waves. But our focus is basically client acquisitions for the most part, and just accelerating the whole process from kind of the demo call to the POC kickoff to getting a few of their developers trying it, evaluating it. People take us really seriously in a way that they don't just give it to developers and say, here's a tool, check it out, tell me if it's good. They kind of coordinate with us. They're like, okay, well, we don't have a front end ticket this sprint. Let's start in the next sprint when we do. Or they say, okay, well, in 2 sprints, we have a ton of new pages we're making. Let's do the POC then. And that 2 week period, or I said 4 week period, even for a startup, that hurts. We want to move as fast as possible. And even like literally the whole flow end to end within 5 clicks in about 10 minutes, they get the agent installed, running a whole page and seeing the output, understanding the depth of the understanding. But the executive, often the VP R&D or the front end lead, they don't want to do that. They explicitly want to wait till it's a sprint that kicks off and have the team take it as a part of the tool set and a part of the sprint. So it's great. Like they're taken really seriously. But for us, it also slows us down sometimes.
How do you balance these needs of, just one more feature or just another proof of concept versus doing more marketing and just getting people's first foot into the door? A lot of founders we talk to always talk about, yeah, but if we just do this one more extra step in the product, people will understand, and some people just go full in on marketing and just want people into the door so they can show the product off and show it's what clients can do with it. What's your kind of balance there?
That's an interesting question. It's a challenge. Right now, we have a pretty solid pipeline, and we have an amazing CMO that helps funnel in more and more leads, and we're doing it in a very strategic way. We have a very clear kind of ICP. We know exactly the frameworks that the agent works best on, so we try and focus also on those frameworks. So we have filtering to make sure the leads that come in are high quality. And then we get kind of the issue that some organizations run faster, some slower, some come in with amazing infrastructure and the agent does a fantastic job. Some come in with pretty, let's say, spaghetti code a little bit. You can see that a few front-end team ran in parallel. They weren't in sync. There's a ton of duplication, and the agent kind of knows everything. So it will find those 5 components that do almost the same thing and say, okay, which one do you want me to use? And the developer doesn't know, the organization. Anyway, so it's hit or miss depending on how professional the organization was on the front end before. So we're right now trying to push for more highly vetted leads, if that makes sense. So ones that we see that they're right in terms of company size, right in terms of framework. We have an amazing director of customer that has an initial call with them, sees where they are, how big front end is a priority for them. It's amazing how both ends work for us. Like if it's an annoying element that they just want to get rid of, then they love us because they just want to run really fast and let the agent do the front end. We get what we get. Let's go. And then if they're on the other end where it's a really detailed design, then they're also happy because the agent takes that detailed design. And then if they're somewhere in the middle, the front, it's like not really on their radar right now because the product is where it is. So we do all that vetting through the process. And we do want more and more leads, of course. You can never really have enough. But since we're top-down, high-touch movement, there's only a certain capacity. So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question. It was a little,
No,
few
absolutely.
elements to work with.
I even have some follow-up questions to that. I did see on your website you mainly have a sign-up flow to book a meeting. Are most of your leads coming to your website, either from, let's say, SEO or cold email or LinkedIn? What's your pipeline look like today?
Uh, so we haven't done the cold outreach yet. We haven't needed to quite yet. We have some great partners that help bring in leads, but a lot of it actually is organic. We did a big launch on Product Hunt, and that got us a good amount of visibility, led to a bunch of traffic and a bunch of leads. We do funnel everything to the website because of that sign-up form, like you saw. That's the way we filter and qualify leads. So we still get traffic from there. Organic, we get featured in articles pretty regularly without us doing anything proactive. And LinkedIn, when we saw our CEO has a great job, great time with LinkedIn. It brings him a lot of attention and feeds our funnel pretty well.
Amazing. That sounds great. So when it comes to building or scaling teams to help drive growth, do you prefer doing most things yourself, or are you more focused on finding the right partners or systems to take things off your plate?
It depends on how critical it is. If it's something important, well, we prefer to do it because we want that. One, we want to experience it, not like set an automation right away, but do stuff manually for a while to really feel it out, get the intuition about it, and tune it before we jump to automation. Same with kind of outsourcing. We started initially when we started the company. We quickly scaled the team by filling it in with outsourcing. And as soon as we got to kind of a stable place, more money came in from the investors. We switched to bring it all in-house. That's just something it felt more right to do. Since everything is so dynamic, everything is changing so fast. If you give it to outsource and the market changed because I know a new model came out, a new product, and the whole landscape shifts, you want to be the one with your finger on the pulse to react.
So what are the most important metrics for you right now? Is it acquiring new clients? Is it the pipeline growth or meeting with new prospects or building the product out? Where are kind of the focus lying right now?
We're going kind of backwards. So the CM already does a great job. So we have a good amount of funnel. We're trying to optimize kind of backwards in the flow. So first from POC to conversion, making sure that everything is seamless. The product personalizes to the infrastructure of the organization. Some organization that's like a modest code base, and for some it's a huge code base. So seeing that personalization goes smoothly and that we don't run into something new in their code base that we've never seen and the agent doesn't know how to handle yet. So trying to get that POC to end of POC and client smooth with ideally zero errors, or if there's an error, responding within 24 hours to get that conversion maximum and smooth. We started going into beta in November of last year, and then the product was not quite as productized as today, and it led to some what we call POC stalled, like stalled companies because the POC was a little too rough. We're much better today, but that really gave us a scar. So we want to make sure all the POCs are smooth as butter. If there's an error, we respond immediately. We have notifications on everything. Like every time we see any hint of an error, we have a Slack notification in a specific channel, and somebody's set to respond right away. Like we're very proactive. So we're optimizing that, and then it'll go backwards. How we transformed into POC, demo to POC, even though the stat there has been crazy, like super high, and then optimizing the funnel more and more.
Yeah, I mean, being an automation company, you're the expert. So hearing that you're automizing things within your company really makes sense, and you're in such a good position to do that as well. Um, One thing we love about the leaders that we interview is that they're usually really open to new ways of solving old problems. So how do you personally approach finding new strategies or partners to help drive growth in your business?
Uh, we're generally very open to it. I'm the CTO to the CEO. Adir is fantastic, super open minded, but also super creative and really experienced. He's done this a few times now and done it incredibly well. So pretty quickly, if somebody approaches him with a partnership opportunity or some new way of thinking about it, he gets it really quick, and then he moves forward. Generally saying, generally speaking, we try and kind of hedge our bets, meaning we're open to many things, but for the first bit, we want to be as limited engagement as possible till it proves itself out, and then invest more in what proves itself in terms of kind of our hours and our engagement. Just because we're 18 people today, I don't know if that sounds like a lot, but there's so much work to do that we have to be really careful with every hour.
I understand. So what are the kind of goals for the next 6 to 12 months or even beyond that, let's say 36 months? Where do you want to be and what matters more than anything right now and why?
Uh, Cursor has led a kind of by example for this whole industry and the expectations by the let's say the board members and investors at large in terms of this pace of growth. So the expectation from us is basically doubling every quarter, which if you can extrapolate pretty quickly to understand where that will take us in 36 months. But I think that it's fair to say that that's the expectations. That's our internal goals and also the pressure we're seeing from the market. Uh, with that, it's all about optimizing kind of what we said earlier, making the sales funnel and the conversion from each step in the process as smooth as possible, and then also optimizing it so that there will be less and less of our involvement over time. So obviously, the smoother the POC, the less engagement, less hand holding they need. One part we were optimizing and we still have work to do is the UX, making the tool as intuitive so that they don't need many demos and they don't have many questions. and adding, we have little agents that also help them if they ask questions, it responds right away and guides them. Uh, so those are also one of our key goals, getting POCs to be basically self-serve. We've had a few clients that were like that. It was amazing. We send them kind of the login credentials before the call, and they're sharp. They get the UI automatically. There's no UX issues for people who are kind of in the nitty gritty of front end. And we get on the call and they basically already figured it out. And they're just like, this looks great. We're going to keep playing with it. In like 2 minutes, we're on and off the call. And it's trying to get everything to be like that. It's not quite the case. Depends. We've seen lots of everything. But kind of optimizing to be as close to self-serve as possible and high touch only with kind of scaling companies and scaling clients.
I see. So less technical people have an easy way to onboard and using the product as well.
That's definitely one of the goals. We want to make it kind of upstream, so even designers can run the agent, get the output in code. The agent renders it. They can see it visually, and they can give. We effectively what we want to do is do the product review and the design review. Do all that based on the output of the agent immediately, and give that feedback directly to the agent so it can iterate and finish. And once that's done, it'll go to the developer. So imagine just skipping the design review for the developer and the front end side almost completely.
That would be so powerful. So at the end of these podcasts, we always like to ask the leaders we interview if there's anything you'd like to share that we didn't ask.
Let's see. So there's one point we love to talk about, which is just how do you align lots of developers in huge organizations, right? So in the front end side of it, maybe you have one team, maybe you have 15 teams. Each one has a few developers. Each one ends up writing in their own standards. If you're working in a monorepo, each one has a different workspace. If you're working in lots of repos, and we're seeing that organizations are struggling to have them all write in the same way, like just coding standards wise, and have a hard time having them use the design system if the organization has invested in the design system. And that's just, again, because we've had crazy instances where even the same developer built a component, went to do the work 2 months later on a screen that would use that component, forgot it exists. And that's the same developer. So think about another developer on a different team that's never seen that component, and it hides away in some shared component library that they're not really familiar with. So organizations are effectively struggling. That's why front end becomes such a mess. And that's kind of the beauty of agents. They will always write in your standards because you said it once and it stays in their context throughout the workflow. And they're in sync on all the components, whether it's something that they've never used before, something that's used a bunch, a component that was written yesterday. As soon as it's in the code base, we have this ACE mechanism, agentic context engine, that updates on every change in the code base basically live. It has like a 10-second delay. So I think Gen AI is really an opportunity for organizations to sync across their developers in a way that's much more powerful than what was possible previously.
What an amazing insight, and it's so rare to hear it from the actual source for people who actually work with this stuff. Like there's not a lot of people. There's a lot of people that think they understand AI, but then there's this next step of people who actually implement it, and it's great to hear about the capabilities and the future of it. So thank you so much for that.
All right, talk soon. Thank you very much.